Throwing jabs, always full send. Here we go again. Jared, Joe, and Jay's Clover Crest, top three corner man, punching in with a puncher's chance. We find a way to win. The main event, locked it in every Saturday at 10. The overhand is out of hand when it comes to fisticuffs. Slide a hand on the undercard, you'll never see the punch. Uppercut got you missing weight, feet are stepping late. Keep your guard up, feeling faint from a feint. Take a stand and eight, then retaliate. Put up your duke, stick and move, bob and weave. Don't lose hope against the ropes, there's always an escape. Never stay down. One more round, bells ringing. Counter punch with your chin tucked and go down swinging. We bringing crosses with no worship, hooks with no verses, combinations with no locks. When you feel the flurry, it's curtains. From scrub scraps to fight stats, relax if you want the facts, cause the best combat podcast is throwing jabs.
Welcome to Throwing Jabs Podcast. I am Joe Aguirre along with Jared Jones. We are live at 1155 Main Street in Coventry. We are inside Scrub Scraps. Great show for you today, including our very first in the gym Scrub Scraps highlight. And I know you're pretty excited about this young lady, so can't wait to get into that. There's also a pretty big fight that is happening this evening in the UFC live from the O2 Arena in London, England. So we will preview that. We're also, and we got to talk about it because it's been a few weeks since we've done a show. Good news. I'm going to live. The heart, everything is great. We got some great test results back
Good news
today.
for us. I mean, I'm sure everybody's not happy about it, but
clearly not everybody. Clearly not everybody, but hopefully most people.
Definitely us here.
So all that said, last weekend, or the weekend rather before that, John Jones.
Who?
I got to say his name now. He's relevant again.
Oh, I hate that he's
And Valentina Shevchenko, who has been on my top 5 pound for pound list. She's not there now.
Yeah.
Incidentally,
she's still on your other top 5 list, but
that is definitely
for another
true.
Show.
That is also true. So we will definitely we'll tell you our top 5 pound for pound, not just UFC, but all of combat sports. So it'll be boxers, and I feel like there could be some, just in looking at your list, and I don't mean to look at it, but I could see it right there. There are some similarities, but there's plenty of differences. So we'll get into that. But of course, Petr Yan. We didn't do a show last week, so of course I didn't get to predict Petr Yan winning this fight against Merab Dvalishvili, and I would have been wrong. I would have been wrong in that. It seems to me, going back to the O'Malley fight, and before that, his last fight with Aljamain Sterling, Petr Yan, we had him up here. He was up here. He would have been featured heavily in the pound for pound list because of how good he is. It hasn't been going so great for Petr Yan of late. Dominated in this fight. I mean, dominated. Like I don't. Not that I didn't think Petr Yan could lose this fight, but he got dominated for 5 rounds.
You didn't see that happening. This is one of those guys where the rise was meteoric. It reminds me of Justin Gaethje, but with Justin Gaethje, with his fight plan, with the way he goes about his business, you could see it being short-lived. You could see that when he got to the upper echelon, he was going to struggle. I didn't really see that with Yan. You know, that wasn't what I expected. And he got to that top level, and he just hasn't been nearly as competitive. And he looked like that elite guy coming up right until Sterling 2.
Yeah.
Even the first one, right up to the illegal knee.
Right up to the knee.
And you wonder what psychologically happened to him. Mentally, did that have an effect? Because it doesn't seem like he's been the same fighter since.
Coming, listen, the fight against Sean O'Malley, Sugar, I think most people, I saw a clip of Khabib, who was like beside himself that O'Malley got. He was like, how they do that?
What'd he do?
I don't understand. Again, that was a close enough fight where you couldn't be mad at the decision, and they're clearly trying to push this young buck who needed a win over somebody like a Petr Yan.
Yeah.
But this seemed like a fight maybe that would get Petr Yan back on track. And again, as long as we've been doing this show, he's been one of my faves. He looked terrible.
Yeah.
in all aspects.
This is not going forward a main event fighter. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not. And 2 or 3 more fights like this, he's undercard, Bellator, LFA. Like it hasn't been working at this level.
It's so funny in this sport how quickly you can go from being a main event to not even only just being on the undercard, but ending up in preliminaries. I mean, we see Ovince St. Preux is always in the prelims at this point. It's terrible.
In the beginning of 2022, December of 2021, we did a top 5 list for who would be the best pound for pound fighter of the year, in the UFC in 2022. One of the guys on my short list was Petr Yan.
Yeah.
To be the fighter of the year, because I knew he was going to get all of these fights and thought he could win them. It hasn't worked out for Petr Yan.
Yeah, no, again, I mean, it seemed like...
And dominated, like you said. It was just not close.
There was, again, I think looking at Volkanovski, Yan, kind of the smaller guys, bantamweight, featherweights, these guys who, right, again, that's what pound for pound lists are meant to, how would these guys fare against the Francis Ngannous of the world? That's why we do these lists, and you see Amanda Nunes' name on lists like that. Again, right, just trying to figure out, all things considered, who would be the best. And I definitely, there was a stretch there where I was convinced Petr Yan, like Volkanovski, like Usman and Adesanya, which mainstays, and just head and shoulders better than the 2 guy.
Yeah.
Who in some cases are people like Max Holloway or Robert Whittaker, where you're talking about a guy who would otherwise be the elite guy, but there's just that other guy.
That one other guy.
Who's just that one step above, and basically 2 steps above everybody else.
There's a Garfunkel in every weight class.
Yeah, that is so true. All right, well, let's get into this then. Let's talk about and again, I know this almost worked out well for you, that we didn't do Jon Jones and Cyril Gane, which again, I thought Jon was going to win that fight. You have to acknowledge Bones again. I know you don't want to.
I can't. No, I mean, to be fair, I can't sit here and go through I had Dvalishvili and you had Petr Yan thing, and you, without doing the other show we missed and saying Cyril Gane was my pick for mainstay at heavyweight. I figured this guy to be the future of the division. And that other guy is one of my least favorite sport characters now of all time. He gets his ass kicked in that fight. He earns favor in my book. Like, this made it worse that you're that good. Oh, God. Yeah. I'm going to go there, bro.
Understand. I do.
I'm going to go there. Oh, God. It's frustrating. It's like there's this natural born-in ability. That's one of the beauties of scrub scraps. I keep saying attendance matters here. You're going to get the good matchup. You're going to get trained to that point that you need to be at. And the further you go, the better things are going to work out for you. In a regular gym, if you're the superstar, if you've got that athletic ability, if you're the Jon Jones, you can do coke, you can mess around in Vegas, you can get caught and arrested multiple times. You can crash cars and do whatever you want. And as long as you show up on game day, you're going to kick my ass, no matter what my attendance looked like. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for every other athlete on the planet to have guys like that out there that can just roll out of bed and beat Cyril Gane. It's frustrating. He's obviously a bigger size than he should be. That's prime weight class for Jon Jones. Did you see him?
Yeah.
That's his prime. No, and he's beating the best we have in the first round. Tapping him out, fast, looking dominant. It's frustrating like that for people like me, that people like that exist. I just wish he was more dedicated to his craft.
I have buddies who are golfers like that. They just roll out of bed, haven't golfed in a year, and they shoot like a 60. And you're like, I hate your guts. Hate everything about you. Also,
what club are you using? I don't know.
At this pay-per-view, of course, Valentina Shevchenko another one considered, you know, maybe a 1A against Amanda Nunes, was winning the fight in the 4th round. Things seemed to be going well. It took a little more heat than usual, although I think we've seen with Valentina Shevchenko been a little, the last couple of fights, she's taken a little more fire than she's used to. Grasso choked her. I mean, it was crazy just how quick. It kind of makes you think of the Prohaska fight against Danbury's own Glover
Teixeira,
yeah. Similar to that, where it seemed like the fight was about to, and then all of a sudden you're, oh no, that just happened. So let's talk about our pound for pound in all of combat sports. Now, again, this is, and we do these periodically. We'll give you the divisions, but we're not doing that. What we're going to give you right now is our top 5 list. We'll go 5 to 1. That's the way you got to do these lists.
Of course.
Sometimes I see people go 1 to 5. And if you take the 1 out, it doesn't.
No drama.
Does it matter?
There's
Who
no
cares?
drama.
All right. Why don't we start with you? And you run through your list. These are the top 5 pound for pound fighters in all of combat sports, according to Jerry Jones. Number 5.
First, I have number 6 as a dishonorable mention.
Who?
I don't know what that means. Number 5, Volkanovski. This was a 240-pound rugby player who now fights at 140, 150. His bone density is going to be off the chart. This is the type of guy we make pound for pound lists for.
And funny, because I don't see the guy that he just beat on your list, which is interesting because Volk, and again, when we talk about the pound for pound list, right? He fights Islam Makhachev, he loses, and in many people's eyes, he's actually now elevated on this list. And you even see in the UFC list where they're right up there, 1-2 with each other.
I always go back to Loma and Teofimo Lopez, where he came up a weight class and gave a great fight to, and at the end of the day, you can't question these lists in the now, right? And what I mean by that is all-time greatest boxer top 10 lists, 0 of them include Antonio Tarver. All of them include Roy Jones.
Right.
You feel me? So
absolutely.
You can't,
yes, sir.
Later on, after Tarver beat Jones twice, we're able to say, okay, in the totality of there. But yeah, Volk 5, and again, came up, fought a bigger guy. When you can come up a weight class and fight the best guy like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Loma and Lopez, he lost the fight, but pound for pound.
Yeah, it was impressive. All right. Number 4.
For Amanda Nunes. She's outrageous. The Pena fight was an off night. She said she had COVID. Everybody who's come off COVID has taken a loss.
True.
She still won the fight and came back at full strength and just totally, utterly dominated, annihilated. I don't know what else we can ask her to do to make it on these lists if she's not there now.
Fair.
Number 3, Alexander Usyk. Another guy who came up, light heavyweight amateur, decided to go heavyweight. He's talking about fighting Tyson Fury. And again, pound for pound, this guy could probably hit 190 and be comfortable. So,
have you been following the exchange of these two as they're trying to plan this fight out? He's taken the calling Tyson Fury greedy belly. Tyson Fury said 70-30. And we've seen this with Spence Crawford, where one guy's throwing out absurd numbers.
Yeah. I'm the name.
Alexander Usyk was like, yes, fine, 70-30. Then you got to donate $1 million to, or £1 million even, to Ukraine, is all he wants. He was like, we'll do that. And then there was this thing about a mandatory rematch, and Tyson Fury was complaining about that. Usyk put out another video, and as he pointed out, the mandatory rematch clause came from your side, greedy belly, not mine. Sign the contract. Alexander Usyk, for what it's worth, has shown me zero fear when it comes to facing Tyson Fury, who maybe the greatest of all time.
Number 3 and number 2 are batched together. They fought 3 times in the amateurs. Usyk beat him twice and lost once to this guy. They're both undefeated. These are the baddest boxers on the planet, and that's part of why. No fear, fight anybody, ready to go, all the training in the world. I'm going to say Artur Beterbiev. Number 2, I think he beats Usyk if we ever get that fight. And when we started this show, these were my 2 of the 5 guys that you don't know right now.
Always
Cyril Gane,
those guys, yeah.
Usyk, Beterbiev. Savannah Marshall fell a little short. I'm still upset about that one.
Everyone is.
And number 1, again, this is why we make the list, Nia Inoue. Little monster, he's just ferocious. Ferocious.
He seems to be getting better.
Yeah.
It seems to me. He's finishing guys quicker. He's only fighting, obviously, the best of the best and just killing everybody.
Chewing through
really is something else.
And 2 of him against Tyson Fury. I'm taking the 2 Inoues. So.
All right.
Pound for pound.
All right. Allow me to share my list. These are my top 5 pound for pound fighters in combat sports. Number 5, with a record of 23-2, and exactly like Jared's list, Alexander the Great, Volkanovski. This has been my guy for years. I think he's magnificent. I unfortunately had to put a guy in front of him who I think is the best pound for pound fighter in the UFC. That's Islam Makhachev. Straight up, he did beat Alexander Volkanovski. I don't know why people are sort of forgetting that happened. Great effort by Volkanovski, but I'm at a point now where, I thought Khabib Nurmagomedov was the best and would have been extremely difficult for anybody to beat. And now I've seen Islam Makhachev, and I don't know if Khabib would have beat this guy. That's how good this guy is. This guy's got all the Nurmagomedov secrets, but without the father thing hanging over his head. Right? This kid's the one that was supposed to deliver afterwards anyway, and now he's doing it. He's so good. And he can beat you standing up. He could beat you on the ground. He can choke you out. He can knock you out.
He's the only argument for that can win. Jace kept trying to throw people into that slot that didn't make sense for Khabib.
Yeah.
That's the only argument for me. That's the only argument that does make sense for Khabib. This guy maybe could be, put on a fight with the GOAT.
Number 3, and this was controversial for me. This forced me basically to push your guy, Beterbiev, out. Dmitry Bivol, who to me gets sold out like he's a poor man's Beterbiev. Went in there and against all odds beat the bejesus out of Canelo Alvarez. That fight wasn't anywhere near as close as what those scores indicated. That was a dominant fight over the guy who was number 1 on the pound for pound list. I think Dmitry Bivol gets sold a little bit short. He doesn't have exactly the record of Beterbiev, who's I believe knocked everybody out in his career. Is that right? Still 100% knockout rate. But Bivol doesn't need to knock you out. Bivol, to me, is the better technical fighter between those 2 guys. And if there comes a day where they fight, I think Bivol could outdistance Beterbiev.
No.
No, that's fair. Tell me.
Bivol, while he's not on my list, I will say professional career body of work with that Canelo victory has to be a little bit more impressive. But it's like Loma. Loma started his career 0-1 with that loss to Orlando Salido, so you can't. So better wins in his professional career. If I include the amateur career, we know Beterbiev's amateur career is basically, there's not too many you can line up against it. And I think ultimately that's the blueprint, if people like Bivol and Usyk and Beterbiev are not teaching bigger fighters the blueprint here, wait till you're about 30 to get out of the amateurs, have about 200 fights, get some good competitive fights in, and then start faster in your pro career to make it up in a shorter amount of time. It makes a lot of sense, and it's working for all of them.
My number 2 is your number 1 in a way, with a record of 24-0. I still got to go with the OG pound for pound. He's done nothing. This guy's, to me, done nothing to take him off this list. His almost equal, Errol Spence, really doesn't want any part of this fight. It's getting more and more obvious by the day. But to me, Terrence Bud Crawford, 39-0. To me, this guy's still the pound for pound number 1 guy in all of combat sports.
You know why he's not on my list? Attendance matters.
Fair. Fair, but is at a point where, listen, who wants to fight Terrence Crawford?
Well, in his body of work, yeah. Yep.
No, I don't blame these guys for not wanting to fight. Anyway, that's our top
love
5.
Usyk's attitude, though. That gives you that makes you love that even more. 70-30? Sure. You want to do it in your mom's backyard? Okay, yeah. Oh, telephone booth is the venue. All right, I'm ready. Sign the damn contract.
Next week, we'll do top 5 pound for pound just in the UFC. Obviously, what happens tonight could go a long way towards what that list is going to look like. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will give you a preview of Usman versus Edwards, and still to come, our Scrub Scraps Spotlight.
Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage, an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Go-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Saturday Night Live from Salt Lake City, Utah. It's UFC 2. Saturday Night Live from Salt Lake City, Utah. It's UFC 278 Usman versus Edwards 2, featuring a main event for the welterweight championship between Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards. Let's break it down. Leon Edwards is 30 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach and a record of 19-3-1 with 6 knockouts and 3 submissions. From Birmingham, England, Edwards grew up in abject poverty, following in his father's footsteps into a life of crime until his father was murdered when he was a teenager. At 17, his mother convinced him to join an MMA gym, and he made his debut in June of 2011 with a first-round knockout. He then won 5 of his next 6 before submitting Wayne Murray via rear naked choke to win the BMMA Promotions welterweight title. He defended it once with a third-round knockout before signing with the UFC, losing his promotional debut to Claudio Silva by split decision. He bounced back 6 months later with a first-round knockout of Seth Basinski and followed that up with a decision over Powell Pawlik before dropping a unanimous decision to future pound-for-pound kingpin Kamaru Usman. 5 months later, he defeated Dominic Waters by unanimous decision, then went on a 5-fight winning streak, including decisions over Vicente Luque and Brian Barberena, before headlining his first event, winning a unanimous decision over Donald Cerrone in June of 2018. The following year, he defeated Gunnar Nelson and former champion Rafael dos Anjos and was involved in an infamous backstage altercation with Jorge Masvidal. However, shortly after signing a new multi-fight contract with the UFC, his career stalled due to strict travel restrictions imposed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as recovery time from a bout with a virus, which saw Edwards lose 12 pounds. After a near 2-year hiatus from the sport, he returned in March of 2021, facing last-minute replacement Bilal Muhammad. However, early in round 2, the fight was stopped or ruled a no contest due to an accidental eye poke, which rendered Muhammad unable to continue. 3 months later, he returned against Nate Diaz, completely dominating the former contender and giving him a terrible beating, while also surviving a last-second left cross, which temporarily stunned him en route to a wide unanimous decision victory. An elite-level striker, Edwards has excellent kickboxing skills and makes up for his lack of power with an exceptional jab and ability to control the distance, while also boosting an impressive 70% takedown defense. Kamaru Usman is 35 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 76-inch reach and a record of 20-1 with 9 knockouts. Born in Nigeria, he moved to Arlington, Texas at the age of 8 and started wrestling in high school, finishing with a 53-3 record. He wrestled Division II at the University of Nebraska, finishing with a record of 44-1, then becoming a resident of the U.S. Olympic Training Center, but didn't make the 2012 team due to injuries. He turned pro in MMA in 2015 and went 5-1, then joined the Ultimate Fighter, winning the finale against Hayder Hassan, and made his official UFC debut in December of 2015 with a victory over Leon Edwards. He followed that up with wins over Sean Strickland, Damian Maia, and Rafael dos Anjos, as well as a knockout of Sergio Moraes, before winning the welterweight title with a one-sided dominant victory over champion Tyron Woodley. In his first defense, he took on Colby Covington, and despite the fact that both men are primarily known for their wrestling, they engaged in a savage back-and-forth slugfest until Covington suffered a broken jaw and was knocked out in one of the latest stoppages in UFC history. In July of 2020, he was supposed to fight longtime friend and sparring partner Gilbert Burns. At that point, Usman left Sanford MMA and chose to train with Elevation Fight Team in Colorado under Trevor Whitman. 9 days before the fight, Burns pulled out after contracting COVID-19, and Jorge Masvidal was brought in on 6 days' notice, losing a unanimous decision. In February of 2021, Usman passed Georges St. Pierre for longest winning streak at welterweight, when after getting dropped early in round 1, he broke down Burns, dropping him with a jab and stopping him with a vicious ground and pound. On April 24, 2021, he made his 4th title defense with a dominant victory in a rematch with Masvidal, decisively ending their rivalry with an explosive highlight reel knockout, and 7 months later took on old rival Colby Covington, winning an exciting and action-packed unanimous decision. Quite possibly the greatest pound-for-pound fighter in the sport, Usman is an elite striker with excellent power who utilizes a solid jab to set up his power shots and uses outside leg kicks to wear down his opponents and control the distance. He also likes to switch stances frequently to set up combinations from different angles, and his freestyle wrestling is one of the best in the business, boasting an impressive 100% takedown defense. Can Edwards utilize his excellent kickboxing skills to neutralize Usman as he tries to finally win UFC gold? Or will the accurate punches and powerful wrestling of Usman prove to be too much to overcome as the Nigerian Nightmare continues his reign as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the business? Tune in Saturday night to UFC 278, Edwards versus Usman 2, and let's find out.
Of course, Jared, the fight did happen, and here's how things were going seemingly well for Kamaru Usman. 5th round, 4 minutes into the final round, it seemed like Edwards had sort of accepted his fate, that he fought a good fight against the champion and perhaps the best guy, not only pound for pound in the sport today, but getting talked about as maybe one of the best ever. And then this happened.
That would be a moral victory for Leon Edwards.
But that is not the cloth from which he is cut. I mean, that is a dejected...
They were talking moral victories for Leon Edwards. before that kick, and to hear Leon Edwards talk about it, by the way, he was setting him up for that kick for quite some time, and it was just he knew it was going to be there when he needed it, and he certainly pulled a rabbit out of a hat. And again, and I already alluded to the Prohaska Glover Teixeira fight, where again that fight looked like it was about to end one way and it didn't. The other comparison that you just made to me while we were watching the preview, we talked about Pereira and Adesanya. I think that's a bit of a different animal, because I don't think anybody really thought that there was a chance for Edwards to win that fight. Again, I think we all thought, hey, maybe he could knock him out. Something crazy things have happened in sports, but when it came to the Pereira-Adesanya fight, again, we're talking about a guy who we kind of assumed he had Adesanya's number going in. I don't think anybody thought that way about Edwards. It'll be interesting to
Tarver
see.
beat Roy in the amateurs, so
a
there
preview
was again
right. There was the pattern of this couldn't work out. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right.
So again, I like Rocky Edwards. I think he's a decent fighter. He's had a really hard time getting on these top 10 lists.
Yep.
And again, having beaten Usman, you usually see him a spot or two behind Usman on a lot of these lists, which drives me nuts. I hate that. I know, I get, but I hate it, because I think, okay, it's a list, but that guy actually beat that guy. How is that guy behind that guy? But this is a chance for Kamaru Usman to avenge this loss, get himself back. But, and I hate to say this, he was becoming a villain in this sport. He was a very unlikable person, and I feel like part of this is he's from Texas. And even though his name is Kamaru Usman, sometimes during his fights, you'll hear USA chants for his opponent, as if he's not an American. And so I think there's some bitterness on the part of Kamaru Usman. So maybe deservedly so.
Perhaps with good reason, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a little Usman quote here from just recently. I've never been in this position, but I know that mentally nothing has changed for me. This is the same guy I beat up before. He's still going to be the same guy. I have to remind him who he is right away. It's going to be a little bit more difficult this time in his head. He forgot about the 4 rounds before the kick. He forgot I was taking his soul.
They were talking about moral victories because Edwards hadn't been knocked out at that point in the fight. Yeah.
They were calling surviving a win when he pulled that kick out.
Yep. I suspect that Usman wants to finish this guy. I think this fight ends by round 3. And I think somebody's going night-night. I'm going to say it's Usman.
In the third.
I think he knocks out Edwards. That might have come out wrong. I think he's going to knock Edwards out. I think he has to restore his legacy.
Usman, round 3, plus 1,500, 10 wins, $1.50, Joe. So might be your puncher's chance.
I like it.
And I believe this is first round stoppage for Usman or decision for Usman. I think if he can come out and destroy this guy, he will. And I think if he can't, he'll recover and pace himself enough to win for at least 3-4 of the 5 rounds and win by decision. But what I don't see him doing is a slow build up to 2nd, 3rd, 4th round stoppage, because if he can smash this guy and put an exclamation mark in the 1st round, he'll do that. And if he can't, it's because he can't. And it'll go 5.
Yeah.
And as far as my puncher's chance, one of your good buds is fighting tonight. Marvin Vettori loses to plus 240 underdog Roman Dolidze. You heard it here first.
Oh, boy. I got the good money on Vettori, so don't listen to Jared on that one.
The dog. That's a live dog. Deladze, though, 12-1.
I tell you what, either way, this could be a good fight, a good card, and we shall see. That's all I can say. But yeah, I think Kamaru Usman, with a dominant victory, gets back in the good graces.
He was taking his soul, so
he was taking the guy's soul. Yeah, but anyway, all right. We're about to wrap things up here. We've got our first in-gym scrub scrap spotlight. We're going to do that next, right here on Throwing Jabs, live from Scrub Scraps, 1155 Main Street in Coventry.
There's no bigger investment than home ownership. And to make sure the house is up to your standards, you need a professional to look it over. Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections is a licensed home inspector and a member of the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. Brian was a contractor for over 15 years, so he knows how homes should be constructed and how mechanicals should work.
What makes me a good home inspector was the 20 years that I was a home improvement person, doing all the different repairs that I have done and what other people have done wrong that I had to go out and fix. So I have a pretty quick eye on seeing what's right and what's wrong. Before you move, call Shamrock Home Inspections.
Before you make the biggest investment of your life, call Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections at 860-268-2566 or visit shamrockhomeinspectionct.com.
All right, we are back, and we are sitting here with a very special guest. She is, well, first of all, welcome to the Scrub Scraps family. we should start there. Jessica Beaumont, a.k.a. the Sniper. Oh, I love that. Tell us what brought you to Scrub Scraps, and then we'll kind of get into how you're enjoying it.
So originally I kind of was, doing the therapy, the sit-down therapy, and it just doesn't work. It just didn't work for me. And Jared opened up Scrub Scraps, so I said, hey, why not give it a shot? And here we are, a month later. So
Jared talks about this a lot, that this program, it's like not conventional therapy. And for anybody who doesn't like the sit-down therapy, and people are always telling me I should go to therapy. But I notice those people have been in therapy for years, and I'm like, does it work? Because maybe it doesn't if you're always in therapy. Again, for anybody who just doesn't want the conventional therapy type thing, and that you say wasn't working for you, what about this do you think is working for you?
Well, Jared talks a lot about how, you build a bond in here, you build that relationship with the person that you're training with. You don't build a bond with somebody who's sitting in a chair across from you and asking you, hey, what's your problems, kind of thing. So you kind of just work it all out in your head. You kind of just punch something and call it, say it's good.
It's funny to say that. I'm always talking about how organic the process is, that I can do all the talking or let them do all the talking, everything from just the boxing to the conventional therapy. And like she just said, it's so organic. You just kind of do it and work into it, and it works.
How old are you?
I just turned 16 in January.
16 years old. Had you been into fighting before? All right, because you don't look like a scrapper. You look like, your regular wholesome teenager. And so, again, this idea of coming in and you immediately were like, oh yeah, boxing. That sounds like something I've been missing in my life. Like, how was the transition of you're in a ring now and I've seen you hitting, yeah? And you love this. Yeah. Talk about that and what that experience has been like, because I'm so curious.
So, I came in here not knowing anything, started off at level 0, you could call it. 17 jump ropes in a minute to now, 68. So you come in here and you don't know anything. You just, eventually you can just learn the way, and I think just focusing on one thing instead of, just talking to somebody at a chair, about the 10 million things that are going on in your life. When you can just come here, you don't have to talk about it. You can just do it. You can just get rid of it.
She mentioned starting with 17. I had 3 kids in here for yesterday's class, And when they first did their 60 seconds on the jump rope, their numbers were 17, 19, and 20. Quick math tells you that's 56. All three of them yesterday did their 60 seconds over, and the lowest number was 57. One more than all three of them combined.
Wow.
When they started.
How much of the therapy here too is just sense of accomplishment? Again, kind of coming in and not knowing anything at all. I mean, zero, as you said, level 0 to you're doing pretty good. You've earned quite the nickname, and Jared doesn't just throw nicknames out there. So he sees something in you, Jessica. Sort of talk us through that part. Like as you're doing this again, starting from level 0 to how long has it been? A month. That's pretty fascinating. Did you? Again, if we went a month ago, it was show up. You talk about that all the time.
You can't just come in here and say, oh yeah, I'm perfect at this. No. You come in here and you start at level 0. And if you don't put in that effort and you don't show up and you don't take that attendance, you're not going to improve yourself. You're doing the opposite.
What would you say to a friend of yours or a peer of yours, classmate, somebody who maybe is struggling? Maybe they don't want to do therapy, or maybe they have done it and it wasn't particularly successful. What would you look into this camera and what would be Jessica Beaumont, aka the sniper? What would your advice to your friends be?
Come here.
Nice and simple. Just come here.
Well, that's funny. It's kind of what she was just saying. It's so organic that really just showing up is how you're going to build. If it's talking you need, if it's just punching something, which I had one of those. You just want to punch something. Yeah. Did anybody ever tell you that was okay before? And this child looked up at me. His eyes got big. Like, are you going to do you want to try to punch me, kid? And he went, yeah, that's okay here because it's natural inside of us. We should have a place where it's okay.
So let me ask you this then, and I don't know if you've done this or not, but do people ever unload on you? Is there ever we're doing some pad work and one of these
or
kids,
a little sparring.
Somebody just unloads and is like,
can answer that. Does anybody ever try to take my head
so
off in a
mean.
sparring match early on in our relationship? Yes. Yes is the answer to that question.
So again,
Jess actually clipped me right here. One of the things about a sniper is they use these little bullets, right?
Nice.
Not a cannonball. So I got hit right here by a 260-pound guy that didn't have nearly, because it was blunt force, it didn't have nearly the effect of right here by a 115-pound girl, because it was long and centered, and in a more compact space. So yeah, it works. Sniper.
When you connected with his face, how much did you enjoy that?
Oh, I laughed.
Yeah. It's funny. I sparred with Jared, and it's been a couple of years now since we sparred. It was in my backyard, and I actually did pretty decently. But just before we finished, he caught me just caught me in the rib. And I think I told you, 6 weeks, man. 6 weeks, that rib was bugging me. It's the ones that don't land flush, I feel like. It's the skimmers you got to watch out for.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you want to do with this? Are you interested in pursuing boxing, or is this just, right now it's serving your needs mentally and you're having fun?
I think moving forward with it and actually fighting somebody is a possibility, but there's still a lot of progress to be made.
Spoken like a true student.
Yeah, right.
I like that. I like that. You're probably better than you think you are. At least that's the impression I get from him. Joe. But you're so humble at this that, and again, I think
you can't be perfect at something.
I was watching a clip on YouTube of Modern Family, and I haven't watched the show, but the first 2 seasons, like I haven't watched it in ages, but I still see clips and it makes me laugh. But the mother said, and I thought it was so interesting, you want your kids not to be the version of you that you were growing up, but the version of you that you were trying to reach that you failed at. And that's the standard that you want. The unreachable standard you couldn't get to is the standard you want for your kid, basically, was the joke there. And I thought to myself, that is so true. Like, we try to teach kids to strive for perfection. And I think if you know anything about math and science when it comes to perfection, it's an absolute really impossibility to get there. I actually was Jared's broadcasting instructor. And the reason I bring that up is one of the things I teach my students is you're never going to be perfect. Don't even waste your time with that. Be real good.
You can practice all day, every day for 24 hours straight, for months straight. You can improve yourself, but you won't be perfect.
Yeah.
There's always going to be somebody better than you.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the unforgiving parts of this game. There will always be someone better.
If you're a parent and you're looking at this kid right now and you're thinking, I'd like a teenager who's humble and disciplined, send your kid, like, it's a no-brainer. Like, you're literally seeing it. Jared's got a daughter just like this, too. Like, he churns out really good, respectful, humble, intelligent, and very grounded people in his program. I mean, he really does. I think that's why this is taken off the way it has, and why, we've been talking about this for years, that the world needs a program like this. And Jessica Beaumont, the sniper, is proof that this thing works.
I came in here the first day, only kid for this group. Weeks later, I saw 4 kids in here. 4 kids.
Yeah, we're growing every day. We have just about every day we have, a person or two come in, inquire, get a membership, what have you. Do you have Jace's question in there? Wait a minute now, because Jace ended every one of these with the same question, and we carried it out after he left. If you had never been a part of Scrub Scraps, if there was no such thing, how would your life be different?
I think I would still be sitting in a therapy office, talking to somebody in a chair who doesn't really actually care.
Good answer.
Look, Tony Soprano, I think, if you look at how that therapy went, if you're a Sopranos fan, it seemed very volatile.
There was therapy in Ozark, too, that wasn't working out.
Again, if the traditional therapy isn't for you, again, I think Scrub Scraps. And again, Jared, I've met now so many participants in Scrub Scraps, some going back to the beginning of 2004. And here our latest edition, Jessica Beaumont, the sniper. And you just see it time in and time again, that this is people that do this absolutely love this. I've never, when people join a cult and then they leave it and they do like a documentary about how all the bad, there's not like a documentary coming about the bad side of Scrub Scraps. It seems like everybody loves this. It's very successful. And again, because it's unconventional, I think it appeals to a much wider range of people.
I hope he doesn't mind me talking a little bit. Her father is a bit of a hardened man and did Scrub Scraps, and she was picking on him the other day. She's reaching down, grabbing the ropes that hold the mattress and clicking them. My dad does this and pulling on the ropes. My dad does this every time he comes in here. He'll put the ring together, But this is a kid that fought at Scrub Scraps 20 years ago, that remembers in his own generation what she's going through and has watched the whole thing and been a part of it. And it's one of the only times I've seen emotion take for him. He feels connected to something bigger than himself. And in this cold and heartless, unforgiving world, isn't that what we all need a little bit more of, is things that make us feel connected?
He cries a lot.
I'm trying to normalize crying all by myself.
You know what's
been a long, hard road.
Oh, hey, listen,
It's hard to get here.
I have a 7-year-old son, and if there's one thing I think this guy's done, as long as I've known him now, and it's been quite a couple of years, we cry a lot. We do. There's, again, and I try to tell my son this too, not when he's being a whiny crybaby, but when he's expressing, sadness. Hey, that's good. You should express that, and that's something that we've talked a lot about. And it was funny at the Scrub Scraps opening just to be around all of your lifelong friends and just for us to all be like, he's a crier. He's gonna start crying now.
More hugs and I love you than you would normally get in such a group.
You wouldn't expect that in the gym, but that's what it is. It's love. It's about family. It's about camaraderie. I've heard that over and over and over again. And now from 16-year-old Jessica Beaumont, the sniper.
I mean, you walk in here and you're like, you don't know how to feel, but you're welcomed by everybody in here. You come in and everybody says hi to you. Everybody cheers you on, no matter if you're hitting 10 on a jump rope or you're hitting 1.
It's beautiful.
Oh, yes.
You guys are going to make me cry. You guys, this is great. Again, make sure you check out the website, scrubscraps.org. Again, you can just go on the website, watch like 1 or 2 testimonials, and then just head straight over here to 1155 Main Street. I don't know how you couldn't. Again, just a very special program. We'll do more of these Scrub Scrap spotlights. Jessica Beaumont, the sniper. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Good luck on your journey.
Thank you.
And thanks for doing it at Scrub Scraps. That's going to do it for us for this week. I'm Joe Aguirre. That is Jared Jones. Enjoy tonight's fights, and we'll be back here next Saturday, 10 a.m. for Throwing Jabs, part of the CMG Sports Network.
Throwing jabs, always full send. Here we go again. Jared, Joe, and Jay's Clover Crest, top 3 corner man, punching in with a puncher's chance. We find a way to win. The main event, locked it in every Saturday at 10. The overhand is out of hand when it comes to fisticuffs. Slide a hand on the undercard, you'll never see the punch. Uppercut got you missing weight, feet are stepping late. Keep your guard up, feeling faint from a feint. Take a stand and eight, then retaliate. Put up your duke, stick and move, bob and weave. Don't lose hope against the ropes, there's always an escape. Never stay down. One more round, bells ringing, counter punch with your chin tucked and go down swinging. We bringing crosses with no worship, hooks with no verses, combinations with no locks. When you feel the flurry, it's curtains. From scrub scraps to fight stats, relax if you want the facts, cause the best combat podcast is Throwing Jabs.